All right, welcome back to the deep dives. Today we're taking a look at, well, something you might not think is all that exciting at first glance.
Yeah, at first glance, it's not exactly the most glamorous topic you could pick,
Well,
right?
diabetic socks. But hear me out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it than you might think. I was surprised going through this new report we're going to be deep diving into.
Yeah, so our mission today is to take all this data, all these projections, all this, stuff about diabetic socks and pull out the insights and maybe even a few fun facts.
Right, so everyone listening can really get a good grasp of what this market looks like, where it's at, and maybe where it's going.
Exactly. I mean, we've got projections, we've got regional breakdowns, we've got types of socks, materials, pricing, who's buying them, where they're buying them.
Oh, and we even have some information about the trends driving the market, what's holding it back, the whole 9 yards.
Right. Definitely. So let's start with the big picture. According to this report, the global market for diabetic socks in 2025 is projected to reach, get this, 272.84 million US dollars.
That's a pretty sizable chunk of change for, socks.
It is. It is. And it's only going to get bigger. By 2033, sales are expected to hit, wait for it, $486.60 million.
Yeah, that's pretty significant growth. And what's driving it? Well, I mean, it's not exactly a mystery. It's the rising number of people living with diabetes worldwide.
Yeah, that makes sense. More people with diabetes equals a greater need for, well, specialized foot care products like these socks.
Exactly. I mean, these socks are specifically designed to help prevent some pretty serious complications that can arise from diabetes. And the report's predicting a compound annual growth rate, a VAGR of 7.5% between 2025 and 2033.
So we're looking at pretty consistent and pretty impressive growth here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Consistent and strong growth, no question.
All right, so we've got the global picture. Now let's zoom in a bit. Let's look at how different regions are performing because, I always find that's where things start to get really interesting.
Oh, for sure. You start seeing those regional differences, those trends, and it can really give you a deeper understanding of the market.
Right. So starting with North America. This report says that in 2025, North America is going to have the biggest slice of the pie, over 40% of the global revenue, which translates to about 100.95 million US dollars.
Yeah. And I think there are probably a couple of reasons for that. Obviously, the prevalence of diabetes in North America is a factor.
Right. But do you think it's just the number of cases, or is there more to it?
I'd say it's probably a combination of things. There's also likely a higher awareness of diabetic foot complications in North America.
Yeah, that makes sense. People are more aware of the risks, so they're more likely to take preventative measures.
Exactly. Plus, access to healthcare, specialized products, even things like insurance coverage for these kinds of things, it's probably better in North America compared to some other regions.
Right. So it's a combination of factors, really. Awareness, access, those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And looking forward, the CAGR for North America is projected to be about 6% between 2025 and 2033.
Okay, still a decent amount of growth.
Oh, definitely. And within North America, the U.S. is the real powerhouse. The market there is estimated to be worth, let me see, 79.65 million US dollars in 2025, with an expected growth rate of 5.8%.
Okay, so the U.S. is really driving that North American figure. What about Canada and Mexico? How are they doing?
They're also on an upward trajectory for sure. Canada's market is estimated at 12.11 million US dollars in 2025, with a slightly higher CGR of 6.8%.
Okay, a little bit faster growth there.
Right. And Mexico is at 9.19 million with a growth rate of 6.5%. So all three are growing, but Canada and Mexico are showing a bit more dynamic growth, you could say.
Interesting. All right, so we've covered North America. Now let's hop across the pond and see what's happening in Europe.
Sounds good. Europe is another really important market for diabetic socks. It accounts for over 30% of the global revenue, with a market size of about 79.12 million US dollars in 2025.
Okay, so pretty comparable to North America in terms of overall size.
Yeah, and the TGR for Europe is projected to be about 6.5% through 2033.
So a bit slower growth in North America.
Yeah, a little bit slower. It'd be interesting to look into why that is. Could be different demographic trends, healthcare priorities. I don't know, just speculating here.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to dig into those nuances. Now, within Europe, are there any particular countries that are really standing out?
Oh, absolutely. The UK, for instance, has a market estimated at 13.29 million US dollars with a healthy CGR of 7.3%.
Okay, so the UK is doing well.
Yeah, they're seeing good growth. Germany, being a larger economy overall, has a larger market for diabetic socks, estimated at 15.67 million US dollars and growing at 6.7%.
Got it. So the UK and Germany are the big players in Europe. What about other countries?
Right. France, for example, has a slightly smaller market at 7.28 million US dollars with a more modest growth rate of 5.7%.
Okay, so some variation within Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. Even within a single continent, you see those market dynamics changing from country to country.
Right. Makes sense. I mean, different countries have different healthcare systems, different demographics, all sorts of factors that can come into play.
Exactly. It's a complex picture.
All right, so we've looked at the kind of the established markets of North America and Europe. Now, where's the real action? Where are we seeing the most exciting growth?
That would have to be the Asia-Pacific region, APAC.
APAC, okay. What's the story there?
Well, right now, APAC holds about 23% of the global revenue. That's about 65.48 million US dollars in 2025.
Okay, so not as big as North America or Europe, but still a decent chunk.
Right. But here's the kicker. The projected CAGR for APAC until 2033 is, wait for it, 10.2%.
Whoa, 10.2%. That's huge.
It is. That's way higher than the growth we're seeing in North America or Europe.
So APAC is really the one to watch. What do you think is driving that kind of explosive growth?
Well, I think it's a confluence of factors. For one, the prevalence of diabetes is rising in many APAC countries.
Right, so there's just a larger pool of potential customers.
Exactly. But there's more to it than that. I think there are also socioeconomic factors at play. Disposable incomes are rising in many APAC countries, so people have more money to spend on healthcare products.
Right, that makes sense. People are more able to prioritize their health.
Yeah. Plus, there's a growing awareness of diabetes management and preventative care in those regions.
So people are becoming more proactive about their health.
Absolutely. And then you also have things like government initiatives to improve healthcare access, which could be playing a role.
So it's a combination of factors like we saw with North America, but maybe even more pronounced in APAC.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it. And within APAC, there are a few key players. China, for example, has a market size of 27.50 million US dollars in 2025 and a projected CAGR of 9.7%.
Wow, China is a big market in itself.
It is. And then there's India, another market to keep an eye on. Currently, it's at 6.55 million US dollars, but it's expected to grow at an astounding 12.1% annually.
12.1%? That's incredible.
Yeah. And then there's South Korea with a $7.86 million market and a 9.3% CAGR. So yeah, APAC is a really dynamic region with a lot of potential.
Definitely. So North America and Europe are the established players, but APAC is the rising star, it seems. What about the rest of the world? South America, the Middle East, Africa?
They might be smaller markets right now, but they're definitely not standing still.
So they're growing, too.
Yeah, they are. South America has over 5% of the global share, with a market size of 10.37 million US dollars in 2025 and an expected CAGR of 8.2%. The Middle East accounts for around 2% with a $10.91 million market and an 8.8% CAGR. And then there's Africa, which is currently around 1% of the global market at $6.00 million, but it's projected to grow at a respectable 7.8% annually.
So even though they're starting from a smaller base, those regions are also showing significant growth.
Oh, absolutely. I think it suggests that awareness of diabetic foot care and access to specialized products like these socks are increasing globally.
That's great to hear. Okay, so we've covered the global landscape, the regional breakdowns, the growth projections. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the socks themselves.
Sounds good. What do you want to know?
Well, this report breaks down the market by type, right? What kinds of diabetic socks are we talking about?
Yeah, the main categories are based on the length of the sock. You've got ankle length, mid-calf, or crew length, and then over the calf or knee-high length.
Okay, so those are the three main types.
Right. And it's interesting to look at how those different types are performing in the market.
Yeah, tell me more about that. Which length is really gaining traction?
Well, according to the report, the fastest growing segment is the over-the-calf or knee-high length.
Really? Why do you think that is?
I think it has to do with the benefits that those longer socks provide. They offer better circulation and compression, which can be really important for people with diabetes.
Right. Diabetes can affect blood flow, especially to the extremities.
Exactly. So those longer socks can help prevent complications. And it seems like more and more people are realizing that, hence the growth in that segment.
Makes sense. So the longer socks are the fastest growing, but which length is the most popular right now?
That would be the mid-calf or crew length.
Why do you think they're so popular?
Well, they're probably seen as a good balance between comfort and protection. They're not too long, not too short. They fit well with different types of shoes.
Right. They're kind of the all-rounder.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe them. They appeal to a broad range of users.
Okay, so we're seeing a current preference for the more adaptable mid-calf, but a clear trend towards the more specialized over-the-calf options. Now, let's talk materials. What are these socks made of?
Good question. The materials are a big part of what makes these socks effective and comfortable for people with diabetes. We're talking about materials like polyester, cotton, nylon, spandex.
Okay, the usual suspects. Anything else?
Oh yeah, increasingly we're seeing natural fibers like bamboo and wool being used.
Interesting. So it's not just about the synthetic materials anymore.
Right, there's a growing trend towards natural fibers.
So which material is the most popular right now?
Currently, polyester holds the largest market share. Probably because it's durable, it wicks away moisture, and it's relatively cost-effective to manufacture.
So it's a practical choice.
Exactly. But like I said, natural fibers are on the rise.
Why do you think that is?
Well, they're breathable, they're good at wicking moisture, and some of them even have natural antimicrobial properties.
That sounds great for people with diabetes who are more prone to foot problems.
Yeah, it's all about preventing skin irritation and infections. Plus, there's the whole sustainability angle. People are becoming more aware of the environmental impact of their choices, and they're looking for eco-friendly options.
Right, that makes sense. So natural fibers tick a lot of boxes. Now let's talk money. How much do these socks cost? Are there any noticeable trends in pricing?
So the report breaks down the market into three price ranges: high, medium, and low. Right now, the medium price segment holds the largest market share.
So most people are going for the middle ground.
Yeah, it seems like they're looking for a balance between affordability and quality. They want the essential features, but they're not necessarily willing to pay top dollar for the most advanced options.
That's pretty typical consumer behavior, I'd say. But which pricing segment is seeing the most growth?
It might surprise you, but it's actually the high price category.
Really? Why do you think that is?
I think it reflects a growing demand for those premium socks with all the bells and whistles.
Mm-hmm.
Graduated compression, antimicrobial treatments, even smart technology to monitor foot health.
So people are willing to invest more for those extra benefits.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Yeah.
Especially those who are really proactive about their health and want the best possible protection.
Okay, so we've got people looking for value in the middle ground, but also a growing segment that's willing to pay more for premium features. Now, let's talk about who's actually buying these socks. What does the report tell us about the end users?
So the report says that the male segment currently holds the largest market share.
That makes sense, given that diabetes is generally more prevalent in men, especially as they get older.
Right. But interestingly, the fastest growing end user segment is the unisex category.
Unisex, huh? Why do you think that is?
I think it's a couple of things. For one, there's a growing preference for products that aren't specifically gendered. People want options that work for everyone.
Yeah, the whole pink it and shrink it approach is kind of outdated.
Exactly. And I think it also reflects a simplification of product lines by manufacturers. It's easier to produce and market a single unisex product than to create separate lines for men and women.
Right, streamlines things. So basically, the benefits of diabetic socks are being recognized as important for everyone with diabetes, regardless of gender.
Exactly. It's about providing the best possible care for everyone.
Okay, so we've talked about who's buying them. Now, how are these socks actually reaching the people who need them? What are the main distribution channels?
Well, the report shows that the offline segment currently has the largest market share.
So people are still buying these socks in brick-and-mortar stores.
Yeah. A lot of people, especially when it comes to health-related products, like to see and feel the product before they buy it. They want to make sure it fits properly, feels comfortable.
Right, that makes sense. And I imagine pharmacies and healthcare stores can offer some expert advice on choosing the right socks.
Exactly. That personalized guidance can be really valuable for people with diabetes.
Okay, so offline retail is still the leader, but what about online sales?
Online is definitely the fastest growing distribution channel. People are increasingly buying diabetic socks online for a few reasons. Convenience, for one. It's easy to browse a wide selection of products from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, no need to go from store to store.
Right. And then there's the price. Online retailers often have more competitive pricing than brick-and-mortar stores. Plus, you get the convenience of doorstep delivery.
So online sales are booming, just like in pretty much every other retail sector.
Yeah, it's a trend that's not going away anytime soon.
No.
And it makes sense. E-commerce platforms offer detailed product information, customer reviews, direct-to-consumer options. It's all very accessible.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the global market, the regional trends, the types of socks, the materials, the pricing, the end users, the distribution channels. Now, before we wrap up, let's zoom out again and look at the bigger picture. What are the main forces driving the growth of this market?
So the report highlights a few key drivers. Firstly, there's just a growing awareness of diabetic foot complications, both among people with diabetes and among healthcare professionals.
So people are becoming more educated about the risks and the importance of prevention.
Exactly. And that leads to the second driver, which is the continuous advancements in sock material technology. We're seeing more comfortable, more breathable, more effective moisture-wicking socks.
So the products themselves are getting better.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the third driver is the increasing recommendation and adoption of diabetic socks by healthcare professionals. It's becoming a standard part of diabetes management.
So it's not just about personal awareness anymore, it's also about professional endorsement.
Right, doctors are recommending these socks, which obviously drives up demand.
Okay, so we've got increased awareness, better technology, and professional endorsement, all contributing to market growth. Now, on the flip side, are there any factors that might be holding back growth?
Yeah, there are a couple of things mentioned in the report. One is the cost. Some of the more advanced socks with all the bells and whistles can be quite expensive.
That makes sense. Not everyone can afford to shell out a lot of money for socks, even if they are beneficial.
Right. And then there's the issue of awareness, or rather the lack of it. There's still a lot of people out there who don't know about diabetic socks or understand their benefits.
So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. The market needs to grow to make the socks more affordable, but it also needs more awareness to drive demand.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of that going on.
All right, so cost and awareness are the main barriers. Finally, let's talk about the future. What are some of the key trends shaping the diabetic sock market?
Well, one big trend is the increasing incorporation of compression technology.
Compression socks for diabetes.
Yeah, exactly. More and more diabetic socks are being designed with compression features because of the benefits for circulation and swelling.
That makes sense.
Another trend is the rising demand for antimicrobial and moisture-wicking materials.
So it's all about keeping those feet dry and healthy.
Exactly. And these trends are really shaping the direction of the market. Consumers are becoming more demanding. They want comfort. They want performance. They want those extra benefits.
So it's a really dynamic market.
Oh, absolutely. And the competition is fierce.
What are the key players doing to stay ahead?
They're focusing on innovation, developing new materials, and expanding their online presence to reach a wider audience.
So it's all about staying ahead of the curve, both in terms of product development and marketing.
Exactly. The diabetic sock market is definitely not standing still.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of, well, something I never thought I'd be so interested in, diabetic socks.
I know, right? It's
Right.
amazing what you can learn when you dig a little deeper.
It is. So to recap, the global diabetic socks market is poised for significant growth, driven by the rising prevalence of diabetes and a growing awareness of the importance of foot care.
And while North America and Europe are currently the biggest markets, APAC is the one to watch for explosive growth in the coming years.
And it's not just about the numbers. Consumer preferences are evolving too. There's a clear demand for more comfort, more advanced features, and more sustainable materials.
Absolutely. It's a market that's constantly evolving, driven by innovation and the needs of consumers.
So as we wrap up, I'm left with a question. What new technologies or materials do you think will revolutionize the diabetic sock market in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. What's next for diabetic socks? What's going to take them to the next level? I don't know the answer, but it's certainly something to think about.
It is. And how will those future innovations impact diabetes management and the lives of people living with this condition? That's the really exciting part.
For sure. It's all about improving lives.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.